Hi, it's Tess from teachwithtess.com. I'm back here today just for those who are starting out with Wales English or who are curious about the teaching app. The video I'm doing today is all about this. So if you're a new teacher, you will be able to see all the different tools that you can use, and I walk through how to use them and what to look for in the classroom. I've also made a video on how to screen share, which is I'm going to pop it up there. This goes into far more detail than when I mention it in this particular video that I'm doing now. So don't forget to check it out if you're a bit nervous of screen sharing, because lots of people are. But it's really easy actually, promise, it is. My channel is of course for anyone interested in teaching from home, or working from home even, ESL Online, and of course Wales English, which is my company that I love. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you get alerts for my weekly content, comes out on Mondays, and like the video if it's helpful for you. Please leave suggestions below in the comments box, because I really like to hear from you what you'd like me to make videos on. So there we go. Without further ado, let's head on over and you'll see how to use WeClass. Right, here we go. So I have just logged on to the practice account of WeClass, and you will see up there in the, hold on, let me bring up my Epic pen, I forgot to do that. So you'll see up in the left hand corner, there's that little emoji avatar here, I think it's the right word, with the name of the account. And that is clearly not me. Even in the best of worlds, but this is a practice account. Now, this is the only class you have access to, so you click on it and it's going to bring up this. Right, so I want to draw attention to a few things on this particular page. Now, the first one is that here, oh, wrong one. Sorry about that, folks. Let's try this one. Look. Right, here is the time of the class. Now, on your real schedule, it will be, let's say 6 o'clock, so 1800 to 1850 or whatever. This is obviously not accurate. It's on, it's live for everybody. And same thing, the China time here, that's not accurate, but normally it is exactly the time in China, and it corresponds with your local time. So it's really useful to have the two times visible. Make sure you keep an eye out on the time that you're supposed to be teaching, and don't get confused by it, because it can be. Now, these particular buttons up here I never ever use apart from the exit button, and that is just to log out, which I'm going to do at the end of this. But otherwise the rest of them I don't use, because I go straight into the class. So let's do that. Start course, and hopefully it will open up. Right, now sometimes when you open the classroom, it will ask to test. Hi everyone. Sometimes when you open the classroom, it will ask to test your equipment, which it will do. You just have to make sure you can see yourself, so the camera's working. Then you click here or play, and then you can hear the sound, and then you can test the microphone. As soon as that's all done, you press in as long as it's working properly, and you get into your class. So let's have a look at this and see what we can see here. Now, first of all, right at the top, you can see Beijing time, top left. That is the time. It's 3 minutes, 2 minutes to 4. I teach at 6 p.m. today, so in about 2 hours. Now here you can see the strength of the connection. So that's full connection. I am cabled. So that means that it's a very, very stable collection. Interestingly enough, it's only showing 106 milliseconds. You can see it's sort of a greeny, yellowy colour. No, it's a yellow colour because it's green when it's good. I have no idea why it's like this. Sometimes it changes. Most of the time I'm teaching on about 7 to 9 milliseconds. So this is all the way up to 107. Don't worry about it. Sometimes it jumps into purple and it goes to 5,000, which is obviously not good. But that, even with a cabled internet, you can find slight fluctuations, but it works perfectly well for me. Now, let's go. So we need to press on start. That's the first thing you do. You can see the button turns red, and that means you now have access to these tools. And most importantly, you can bring up the lesson content. So if we just let's go to ESC. Right, we're in our ESC trials. So we've got exactly the slides that you would have if you were teaching a class. But first of all, I just want to talk to you about everything you find in this classroom, the tools and little things you need to know. So right at the top of this toolbar, so this is a toolbar here, you can see the file. Now that is where you will find your lesson content. There are often more than 3 files because you have depending on what class you're teaching, obviously. If it's ESC, you only ever have 1. But if you have any other ones, you have the actual PowerPoint, then you have a student book and a practice book. So just make sure you open the right one. It's not the end of the world if you don't. If you don't, you just change it. Or maybe you want to bring it up. If you're doing an ORT lesson, you may well want to show the actual textbook. So you can swap and change all the time. I certainly do with most of my classes. So that's the file. Now, if you click on finish by accident, you see this reminder that comes up. Don't worry, I've done it several times. You just press no and you go straight back to the classroom. If you finished, of course, you press yes and it will let you come out. Next to that, I'm actually going to talk to you about these buttons first. Now let's see this troubleshoot button. If I clicked on that, which I'm not going to do because it is well, actually no, I am. Let's see what happens. So it's going to test my camera first of all. Yep, I'm using my Logitech StreamCam, so yes, that works. And then it's going to test my speaker. No problem there. Yes, and then. Yes, sorry about the microphone, I'm using the external one. So it all works, it's going to do all the test and it takes me through to this. Now, if you have an issue in your classroom, this is what you need to do. You do a troubleshoot first, and if everything's ticked green from your end and you've managed to get it all working, then you click on yes and you carry on as normal. But if you have an issue, you click on no and you'll get to the fireman and there's a drop-down menu there. So I'm not going to press that because if they get an alert from me for me just doing a video, it's a bit of a waste of time for them. But if you do it, it will have a drop down menu of things that you can choose from. It could be students can't see you, students can't hear you, you can't hear students, slides won't work, etc. So you just click on the right one and off it goes, and they then go and work in the background. And they're actually, well, some people, I've always found that most of the time it works. Sometimes they don't fix the issue, but you get a little pop-up saying that they're working on it, and then you get another pop-up saying it's been resolved. And to be honest, I've often had problems with the students not hearing me or me not hearing the students, and you can see mum on the phone pressing buttons, and then it all works. So they're definitely doing something. They then say refresh your classroom, but if it's all working, I sometimes don't bother. I just don't want to press another button in case it goes wrong. So I just sort of leave it and go with it. If it is still not working, you can refresh. And that is what this button, now I'm just going to close that down because I don't need it. And the refresh button is exactly that. You refresh, I'm going to press it now. It's refreshing everything and it brings you back to the same place normally. There you go. And again, if you want to run a diagnostic test, you can, but I'm not going to bother because I know it works. So I'm going to press start again. Normally in your own classroom, it actually takes you back to the slide you were on with all the annotation you may have on it. In this practice classroom, it doesn't seem to work the same. Right, so those are the tools up at the top, or what you can see at the top. Now let's take you down this toolbar. So we've talked about the first one, which is where you find your lesson content. Underneath here, you have your pen, very straightforward. Lots of hearts are usually drawn, etc. Great for annotating. Now I've just clicked that paintbrush. You'll see me doing it all the time because that deletes everything. Be careful if you don't want to delete everything. You've got a rubber here. So let's try this. I'm going to say, write a sentence. Hi, how are you? Please don't. Right. Okay. So you can see when I wrote that there are these little lines. It was in a white box and then a little line. At the moment, the students can't see that. So you need to click again. Those lines disappear completely and now the student can read it. And I'm going to look at it. Once it's written, it's on the screen, you can't move it around either. So make sure you put it in the right place. It's fairly basic, the text tool, but it works. Now I'm going to think, oh, I forgot to put in a little comma, so I can use the pen for that. Doesn't look great, but it's all right. And then this rubber here can get rid of a little bit. So if you want to change that last word and put something else, you can just, how are we? If it'll work, there we go. How are we? With a question mark. and it will be there. You can see, again, it's not very great, but it shows you how to do it. Try and write everything you need at the same time. And then I'm going to use this paintbrush, up, away it goes. Now, this is a tool I use for annotating all the time. You can see it's much neater than the pen. So the pen, if you want to circle, fine. But you can also use, well, if you want to circle, you can use this. It just looks neater and it's very quick. You have a square version of it, a square or rectangular or whatever. Again, very quick. The other thing I like to do is, let's say we move off this front. Let's move forward a few slides. You wouldn't use it for ESC really, because they're very beginner learners, so they'd find this probably too hard. But for my better learners, I like using these blocks. So I would cover something up and ask them if they remember what it is, or, you know, if there are questions. No, I don't want you to read the questions. I want you to think of your own question. So things like that. This rubber can be great for this, because you can just get rid of a little bit and show, name, what's the first part of that question? You know, and get them to think like that. So this block is great. I use it quite a bit, and with the rubber. And you can do a circular one as well. Same thing. So there we go. Those are those tools. Very useful. Get rid of them all again. Now, the mouse, fundamental one. So many people, we've all done it, especially when you start. You've been doing all your annotating and everything else, and then you want to change. Let's say I've been doing this, and then I want to do something else. I want to change or set the animation triggers going. Now, if you're not on the mouse, it doesn't work. You can change slides by doing that, but to cut a long story short, if you don't have the mouse, very often the animation triggers don't work. So make sure as soon as you've finished with all of the annotating or whatever it is you're doing, you go back to the mouse, because it can cause lots of problems, and also you can wipe things out or do whatever. So the animation triggers, important to know where they are before you teach a class. Then underneath that is the microphone. Now for this, it will mute both students. So if you click on it like that, you will not hear the students. So be careful, because you might be doing something else and think, this is odd, I can't hear them, why not? And that might be why. You can see it stays a nice dark color, so it's quite obvious when you've clicked on it. I do it all the time when I get I click too fast on the mouse and I mute them by accident, but just sort of unmute them as quickly as possible, because obviously you shouldn't leave them on mute. Now, also, you can't see any students in this classroom because there aren't any, but when there are, I'm going to actually screen share, which is the next button here. So down below, and this is one that causes great fear in some teachers, is screen share. It's a wonderful thing. I do it almost every lesson. So I'm going to screen share a screenshot of myself with students in the classroom. Here we go. Now, isn't that a flattering photograph of me? Now, normally you would see here, you would see the students, but there's no students. There are no students in the classroom, so that is empty. But what I wanted to point out here are the tools that you can give the students, which is why I'm screen sharing this. So this is just a picture. They can see this. Now, these are the student boxes. So the first one you can see there is a microphone. If you click on that, if you click on just one student's microphone, it will mute that student, but not the other. Wales doesn't encourage this. I use it to a limited degree. If there's a lot of noise, or the other day I was teaching, they were in a restaurant. So that student was muted quite a lot when I was trying to hear the other one because it was so noisy. But in general, don't mute them. The one next to them is the camera. So that camera image, let's get a brighter pen. Here we go. So this one is the camera here. Again, they can turn that off from their end, and they can turn off the microphone from their end, but we can also do it our end. Sometimes you get into battles with students who sort of turn off their camera and whatever, but you try and avoid that if you possibly can. Now, the other one that's really, really, really useful to know is this. So that wrench, that is what you need to click to enable the students to write on the screen. So you can that car that's on this picture, that wasn't in fact mine. But it's really useful to get them to annotate. I use that all the time in lessons. They love it. You know, they pick a picture and they ask a question about it or whatever it is that it is. So use this tool. And then last of all, that's fairly self-explanatory. That's the reward. So you click on that and you will get, you will give an individual student a star. But I'm going to stop sharing and take you back to the classroom. So that I just wanted to, oh yes, and then the last thing you'll see at the bottom, this is the number of stars that you've given the student and their name, which is self-explanatory really, isn't it? Right, let's take you back. Now you'll see in here, you've got that little red circle in the actual We class. So if you click on that, it stops Screenshare. There you go. And we're back to the classroom. Super simple. So you can use Screenshare for everything. Whatever you have on your screen, they can see. So really be careful before you start your lesson that it's where you want it to be. I tend to have loads of things open. So I will make sure, you know, the game's open or the document or whatever it is, because otherwise they're looking at your Facebook account or something like that. Not what you want. Now, underneath, let's carry on. So this button here for the stars, you'll remember in the student boxes, it was an individual star, but if you press on that, it will give it to both students at the same time. Although you need to check because sometimes it messes around and it doesn't. But that's in theory what it does. You have the spinner, which is a great thing to use. You can use this in many, many ways. I will get students to choose 3 numbers and we just see who goes first, or you could make it for you know, to practice questions, and each number would have one of the different questions words. So maybe, I don't know, number 1 is how, number 2 is why, number 3 is who, etc. And you spin it by pressing in the middle, up, round it goes, and whatever it ends with or lands on. Right, so number 4, you have to make a question with what? And off they go. Or can you give an example of, I don't know, a simile? It could be anything. It could be used for parts of speech. It could be, it's great. This is endless in its possibilities. It's just really limited by imagination from our part, on our behalf. You know what I mean? Next one, timer. I use this as well, and I recommend you do, just to keep track if you're asking them to do a particular exercise, or, you know, depending on their level. It's a good way. It could be a good way of setting a bit of competition. You know, you've got a minute to find as many words beginning with the sound V or whatever it may be, or you have 2 or 3 minutes to write 2 sentences about the topic, or, you know, self-explanatory. You set it like that and you just press go and it counts down. Very simple. And lastly, you've got this buzzer. Now, again, the buzzer, I remember not really understanding how it worked when I first started. It's quite simple. You have to click on the wrenches to enable the students to use their pens, or they can mark on the screen. And then you tell them you're about to press it, because at the moment they can't press that. It's just sitting there. So I count down, I go 3, 2, 1, go. And I click on it, and the first student to click on that buzzer, their name comes up. So that was bad English, but you know what I mean. Whoever is first, name comes up. Now, no one is there, so it hasn't worked and it says restart. But, you know, again, it's quite good to it depends on the students, this one, because some are really, really quick and it always seems to go to the same one. Others, you know, maybe their pens aren't as good, or they have a mouse isn't as fast as an iPad where it's a tap on the screen. So you just have to sort of think a little about and see how it works with the students and decide whether or not it's a good idea. Anyway, so there you go. That is WeClass. I really hope that helps you understand how to use it, that you get all the tools in there. Go off and practice them. It's you know, you'll learn this very, very quickly. And when you've finished class, which we're going to do now, we press finish and go. So on that merry note, I'm going to say thanks a lot, and I'll see you next time. Bye.